Rome, the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen. An empire of marble temples, victorious armies, and emperors worshipped like gods. But when the sun disappeared behind the hills surrounding the city, even Romans became afraid. Because at night, Rome transformed into something else entirely. The bright marble streets turned black. The noise of merchants faded away. And every shadow suddenly felt dangerous. A thief could be hiding beside a staircase, a murderer behind a doorway, or a violent gang waiting in the darkness. You could survive years fighting barbarians on distant frontiers, only to die walking home in your own city after sunset. Modern movies often portray ancient Rome as glorious and beautiful, a civilization of power, discipline, and luxury. But for ordinary Romans, nighttime was terrifying, because once darkness covered the city, the law almost disappeared with it. And the deeper you walked into Rome after dark, the more dangerous the city became. Imagine standing completely alone in ancient Rome at midnight. No electric lights, no police cars, no cameras, no safe streets. Only darkness. A darkness broken occasionally by flickering oil lamps and distant torchlight. And somewhere far away, a scream echoing through the city. Rome was enormous for the ancient world. At its height, more than 1 million people crowded inside the capital of the empire. Massive apartment buildings towered over narrow alleyways. The streets smelled of smoke, sweat, animals, and sewage. And almost every district was dangerously overcrowded. During the day, the city felt chaotic. At night, it became predatory. As sunset approached, the wealthy hurried back to their guarded villas. Heavy wooden doors slammed shut across Rome. Iron locks clicked into place. Servants extinguished lamps one by one. The rich hid behind walls protected by guards and slaves. But the poor had no protection. And once the streets emptied, Rome belonged to criminals. Roman writers described the city after dark with genuine fear. The poet Juvenal warned that walking through Rome at night was incredibly dangerous. Not because of invading armies, but because ordinary streets became deadly. If you were unlucky enough to walk alone, you risked robbery, beatings, or murder, and many victims simply disappeared into the darkness. Violence in Rome could begin over almost anything. A drunken insult, a stare in the wrong direction, a disagreement during gambling, or accidentally bumping into the wrong person. Suddenly knives appeared. Fights broke out constantly in taverns and alleyways, and blood often stained the stone streets before sunrise. Drunken gangs roamed through poor neighborhoods searching for entertainment. Some were common criminals. Others were wealthy young nobles looking for violence. Roman aristocrats sometimes wandered the streets with armed companions, attacking random pedestrians for amusement. For the poor, nighttime meant vulnerability. For the rich, it sometimes became sport. One Roman writer described nobles beating slaves nearly to death for entertainment. Others humiliated strangers publicly, or attacked anyone too weak to defend themselves. And if a poor citizen was killed, there was a good chance nobody would face punishment. Because Rome had surprisingly little effective law enforcement at night. The city did have night watchmen called the vigils, but they were badly organized, understaffed, and often corrupt. Their primary responsibility was not protecting citizens. It was fighting fires. And fires were another reason Romans feared darkness more than war itself. Most ordinary Romans lived inside dangerous apartment buildings called insulae. These structures were packed tightly together, built cheaply, and often dangerously unstable. Wooden beams supported entire floors. Tiny rooms held entire families. And open flames burned constantly inside crowded apartments. Every night, the city became a fire trap. Families cooked food over open flames. Oil lamps illuminated tiny rooms late into the evening. And accidents happened constantly. One overturned lamp, one kitchen fire, one spark landing on dry wood. And entire neighborhoods could erupt into flames within minutes. The most horrifying example was the Great Fire of Rome during the reign of Nero. For days, the city burned uncontrollably. Massive flames consumed homes. Smoke filled the sky, and terrified citizens fled through overcrowded streets. Some suffocated before escaping, Others became trapped inside collapsing buildings. At night, the fire transformed Rome into a nightmare. The sky glowed orange. Smoke covered the moon, and burning buildings collapsed beside screaming crowds. To many Romans, it looked like the end of the world. Even after the fire ended, the fear remained, because everyone knew it could happen again. Many Romans were terrified to sleep at night. A family could close their eyes safely, only to wake surrounded by smoke and flames hours later. And because buildings stood so close together, fire spread incredibly fast. Entire districts could vanish before sunrise. Rome was powerful, but fragile. Darkness also hid another danger. The city itself. Roman streets were filthy. Open sewers ran beside roads. Dead animals rotted in alleyways. And human waste was often dumped directly from apartment windows. Some residents shouted warnings before throwing waste outside. Others did not bother. Imagine trying to navigate those streets with only a tiny oil lamp. The roads were uneven, covered in mud and garbage, and crowded with hidden dangers. A single wrong step could break an ankle. A hidden robber could emerge from darkness without warning. And if you screamed for help, few people would risk intervening. The sounds of Rome at night were unsettling. Drunken shouting echoed through taverns. Dogs barked constantly in dark alleyways. Distant arguments turned violent, and wagon wheels rattled across stone roads until morning. The city never truly slept. It groaned in darkness like something alive. Taverns became some of the most dangerous places after sunset. Inside, men drank heavily, gambled away money, and settled arguments with violence. Wine flowed endlessly. Cheating during dice games could trigger deadly fights within seconds. Many taverns attracted criminals, fugitives, and gangs searching for vulnerable victims. Prostitution also flourished during the night. Entire districts became centers of gambling, alcohol, and sex work. Roman elites publicly condemned these places, yet many secretly visited them. Behind closed doors, the city's morality changed after dark. And the further night progressed, the more dangerous those districts became. Women faced constant danger in Rome after sunset. Respectable women were expected to remain indoors during the night whenever possible. Walking alone through dark streets could lead to assault, humiliation, or kidnapping. Families feared nighttime for good reason. Darkness protected predators far more than victims. Slaves experienced Rome at night differently from free citizens. Many worked through the darkness. Some cleaned wealthy villas after banquets. Others carried goods across the city. And many feared punishment behind closed doors. Roman masters held enormous power over slaves. And once darkness covered private homes, cruelty often became invisible. Even soldiers returning from war found Rome unsettling at night. Military camps were organized and disciplined. Soldiers knew where danger existed on the battlefield. But Rome was unpredictable. A knife attack could come from nowhere. A building might collapse suddenly. Or violence could erupt in a crowded alley without warning. At least during war, Romans could see the enemy. Inside the city at night, danger hid everywhere. And perhaps that uncertainty terrified people most. Because fear becomes stronger when it hides in darkness. Every sound felt suspicious. Every shadow felt alive. But perhaps the strangest part of Roman nightlife existed underground. While ordinary citizens locked their doors, secret groups gathered beneath the city. Hidden cults became increasingly popular throughout the empire. Some worshipped mysterious Eastern gods. Others performed rituals considered disturbing or dangerous. One of the most infamous was the cult of Bacchus. Rumors about the cult spread across Rome. Secret nighttime ceremonies, wild rituals, violence, and hidden initiations performed beneath torchlight. Whether every accusation was true hardly mattered. Fear spread faster than facts. Roman authorities became deeply suspicious of secret gatherings. They feared conspiracies, political plots, and dangerous religious movements hidden beneath the city. Investigations were launched across parts of Italy. Underground rituals became associated with fear, mystery, and corruption. Especially at night, Romans were also deeply superstitious people. Many believed darkness belonged to spirits, ghosts, and demons. Some believed restless souls wandered through streets after sunset. Others feared curses hidden beneath homes or buried near temples. Nighttime amplified every superstition inside the Roman imagination. Protective charms appeared above doorways across the city. Families prayed to household gods before sleeping. Candles burned beside small altars. People carried amulets believing they protected them from evil spirits. Because once Rome became dark, many believed supernatural dangers awakened beside human ones. Archaeologists have discovered Roman curse tablets buried throughout the empire. Thin sheets of lead contained messages asking gods or spirits to destroy enemies. Some curses targeted lovers. Others targeted gamblers, business rivals, or political opponents. Fear and superstition shaped daily Roman life far more than most people realize. The Roman night blurred reality and imagination together. A shadow in fog could become a ghost. A stranger behind you might be a criminal, or simply another frightened citizen trying to survive the streets. But fear changes perception. And Rome after dark was filled with fear. The city itself almost felt alive during the night. Smoke drifted between buildings. Torchlight flickered through windows, and distant screams occasionally echoed through empty streets. Ancient writers often described Rome like a monster that consumed the weak, especially after sunset. And despite all this danger, life continued every night. Workers still returned home after exhausting days. Merchants closed shops after dark. Travelers searched desperately for inns. Slaves delivered messages through dangerous streets. Millions of people continued surviving inside the chaos. Some emperors even wandered through Rome at night disguised among common citizens. According to stories, Nero himself enjoyed roaming dark streets with companions searching for entertainment. Some accounts claim they attacked civilians randomly for amusement. Whether fully true or exaggerated, Romans believed darkness transformed people. Even emperors, the night removed social order. Cruelty became easier in darkness. Violence became easier. Fear became stronger. Rome appeared civilized during daylight. But nighttime revealed something far more dangerous hiding beneath the empire's beauty. By sunrise, much of that fear temporarily disappeared. Markets reopened. Citizens flooded streets again. And politicians returned to public life. The city seemed normal once more. But every Roman knew darkness would eventually return. And with it, the fear, because Rome's greatest danger was not always beyond its borders. It was not always barbarian armies, foreign invasions, or distant wars. Sometimes the greatest threat existed inside the capital itself, waiting silently in darkness. That is why many Romans feared the night more than war. War felt distant for ordinary citizens. But darkness came every evening. Every citizen experienced it. Every family feared it. And nobody truly controlled it. So when you imagine ancient Rome, do not picture only glorious emperors and shining marble temples. Picture narrow streets covered in fog, locked doors, flickering torchlight, and frightened citizens listening carefully to footsteps outside their homes. Because once night fell over Rome, you were never truly safe.